A champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. The sharp crack sliced through the music, and dozens of heads turned at once. Amara Brooks froze near the entrance of the Hartwell Estate ballroom, her heart pounding as glittering shards scattered across the polished floor. A waiter hurried forward, apologizing profusely, but the attention had already shifted, not to the broken glass, to her. Whispers rippled through the room. Who is she? Did she come in through the service entrance? Look at what she's wearing. Amara resisted the urge to pull at the sleeves of her plain white blouse. Her jeans suddenly felt heavier than stone beneath the weight of 100 judgmental stares. She knew immediately. Someone had set her up. The ballroom sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. Women wore designer gowns worth more than Amara earned in months. Men stood in tailored suits, holding crystal glasses and discussing investments and luxury vacations. And there she stood, looking like she belonged nowhere near them. A woman with sleek blonde hair stepped closer, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Well," she said sweetly, "you certainly made an entrance." Several guests laughed. Amara swallowed hard. She wanted to leave. She wanted to disappear. But before the night was over, the same people mocking her would be forced to learn exactly who she was. Just 3 days earlier, Amara had been sitting alone in a quiet corner of Blake Couture. The fashion studio was empty except for the steady hum of sewing machines and the soft scratch of her pencil across paper. Most employees had gone home hours ago, not Amara. She studied a sketch spread across her desk, adjusting tiny details on a gown that would soon be worn by one of the most influential women in the country. Every stitch mattered, every line mattered, because the gown wasn't just clothing. It was art. A voice interrupted her concentration. "Still here?" Amara looked up. Miriam Blake stood in the doorway holding her handbag. The studio owner glanced at the sketches. A flicker of approval crossed her face. "Done good work," Miriam admitted. Amara smiled. "Thank you. Hartwell fitting is tomorrow." Amara nodded. She knew, everyone knew, Evelyn Hartwell's 60th birthday gala was one of the most exclusive events of the year. Politicians, business leaders, celebrities, people spent months hopping for invitations. Miriam crossed her arms. "Handle the final adjustments." Amara blinked. "Me? Don't look so shocked." "Just assumed you'd go." Miriam shrugged. "I have other meetings. Besides, you know the gown better than anyone." That much was true, because Amara had spent weeks designing it, not publicly, not officially. Most clients believed Miriam created every masterpiece that left the studio. Few knew how much of the work came from the quiet seamstress in the corner. Amara lowered her eyes. "Do my best." "I know you will." Miriam paused. "And remember something." "What?" "You represent my brand when you're there." The words lingered after Miriam left. "My brand, not yours." The next afternoon, Amara arrived at the Hartwell estate carrying a garment bag. The mansion seemed pulled from another world. Stone columns towered above perfectly manicured gardens. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway. Even the air felt expensive. She hesitated before ringing the bell. A uniformed attendant opened the door. His eyes dropped briefly to her simple clothes. "Delivery?" "No," Amara replied politely. "I'm here regarding Mrs. Hartwell's fitting." His expression immediately changed. "Oh, of course." Moments later, she was escorted inside. The interior was breathtaking. Massive paintings lined the walls. Crystal chandeliers glittered overhead. Everything seemed designed to remind visitors of wealth. "Miss Brooks." Amara turned. A graceful woman approached wearing an elegant smile. "Evelyn Hartwell." "Hartwell." Evelyn reached for her hands warmly. "Thank goodness you're here." Warmth surprised Amara. "You remember me?" "Of course I do." Evelyn laughed softly. "You fixed the sleeve issue everyone else missed." Amara smiled. "I was happy to help." Evelyn corrected gently. "You were talented enough to notice." The first time that day, Amara relaxed. As they discussed the gown, another pair of eyes watched from across the room. Lucas Hartwell, Evelyn's son. He noticed how naturally his mother spoke with the young seamstress. He also noticed something else. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. That alone made her different from almost every guest who entered the estate. Their conversation ended when another woman approached, tall, elegant, perfectly styled, Vanessa Cole. Lucas's cousin. Vanessa glanced at Amara before looking back at Evelyn. The look lasted only a second, but it said everything. Vanessa had already decided exactly where Amara belonged, and it wasn't here. The fitting went smoothly. As Amara prepared to leave, Evelyn stopped her. "Actually, I have a question." "Yes." "Would you stay for the gala tomorrow evening?" Amara blinked. "Gala?" Evelyn smiled. "Love for you to attend." "Oh, I couldn't." "Not." Amara struggled for an answer. People like her didn't attend events like that. Evelyn seemed to understand immediately. I insist. Amara finally nodded. Thank you. She didn't notice Vanessa standing nearby, listening, planning. The next evening, excitement filled the estate. Guests arrived from every corner of the city. Luxury cars rolled through the gates. Photographers captured every arrival. Inside, Vanessa moved through the crowd effortlessly. A friend approached. Did you tell the seamstress about the dress code? Vanessa smiled. No, friend laughed. Terrible. Really. Vanessa sipped her champagne. I simply believe people should know where they belong. Back at her apartment, Amara stared into her closet. She owned nothing remotely suitable for a billionaire's gala. The invitation hadn't mentioned a dress code. Still, uncertainty lingered. Eventually, she chose her cleanest white blouse and dark jeans. Simple, neat, respectable, that would have to be enough. The moment she entered the ballroom, she realized her mistake. Every conversation seemed to pause, every head turned, the humiliation hit instantly. Yet somehow she kept walking, pretending not to notice, pretending not to hear. Then came the whispers, the laughter, the pitying looks, and finally Vanessa. Amara. Her voice dripped with fake concern. You poor thing. Amara forced a smile. What do you mean? No one told you. Told me what? Vanessa sighed dramatically. Gala is formal. Several nearby guests smirked. Amara felt heat rush into her face. I see. You must be embarrassed. Cruelty beneath the words was unmistakable. Amara met her gaze. I'll survive. Vanessa looked disappointed by the response. She had expected tears, not composure. Well, Vanessa said. That's brave. Amara turned away, but the damage was done. For several minutes she stood alone near a balcony. Watching people, listening to music, trying not to cry. Maybe she should leave. Maybe she never should have come. Mind if I join you? She looked up. Lucas Hartwell stood beside her. Probably the only person who asked. He smiled. That's unfortunate for everyone else. Amara laughed despite herself. Lucas leaned against the railing. They've been starring. I noticed. And what? Does it bother you? Amara considered the question. More than I'd like to admit. Lucas nodded. Fair answer. She looked toward the ballroom. Feel ridiculous. You shouldn't. Easy for you to say. Why? She stared. Because you're Lucas Hartwell. He chuckled. Trust me. Wealth doesn't protect people from judgment. Not. It helps. He couldn't argue with that. For the next several minutes they talked, really talked, not about money, not about status, just life, dreams, work, purpose. For the first time all evening, Amara felt seen. Across the room, Vanessa watched with growing frustration. This wasn't supposed to happen. The outsider was supposed to leave, not capture attention. A bell chimed. The room gradually quieted. Evelyn Hartwell stepped onto a small stage. Guests gathered around. Thank you all for being here tonight. Applause followed. Evelyn smiled warmly. 60 years is a long journey. Laughter rippled through the crowd. She continued speaking, thanking friends and family, then her expression softened. Before we continue, I'd like to recognize someone special. Amara barely paid attention until Evelyn spoke her name. Amara Brooks. Ballroom fell silent. Amara froze. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Evelyn extended a hand. Come here. Heart pounding, Amara walked forward. What many of you don't know, Evelyn said, is that the beautiful gown I've worn tonight would not exist without her. Murmurs spread instantly. Evelyn continued. Everyone keeps complimenting the design. She smiled. Much of that creativity came from Amara. Shock swept through the room. Vanessa's face tightened. Miriam, standing nearby, shifted uncomfortably. Evelyn wasn't finished. Talent deserves recognition. Her voice carried authority. Too often we celebrate names while ignoring the people behind them. She turned toward Amara. You should be proud. Amara's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said those words publicly, not like this. The applause started slowly, then grew louder and louder, until the entire ballroom echoed with it. The same people who had mocked her now clapped enthusiastically, not because they had changed, but because they finally knew her value. Later that evening, Evelyn found Amara standing in a quiet garden. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Evelyn laughed. Good. Amara smiled. I don't know how to thank you. Then don't. Evelyn studied her carefully. Answer one question instead. Okay, are you hiding behind someone else's name? The question struck deep. Amara looked away. Never thought people would care about mine. Evelyn shook her head. That's not true. Maybe. No, Evelyn's voice was firm. You simply haven't given them the chance. Silence stretched between them. Then Evelyn said something that changed everything. I'd like to invest in your future. Amara stared. What? Your own label? I can't. You can. Never run a business. Neither has any entrepreneur before they begin. Amara struggled to breathe, the opportunity felt impossible. And yet, for the first time in her life, it felt possible too. The next morning, she arrived at Blake Couture. Miriam was waiting. "We need to talk." Amara nodded. "I know," Miriam sighed. "Flynn spoke highly of you." Amara remained silent. "Been thinking." Miriam leaned forward. "I'd like to make you a partner." Months earlier, the offer would have felt like a dream. Now it felt different because something inside Amara had changed. "That's generous." But Amara smiled sadly. "But I think it's time for me to leave." Miriam stared. "Leave? I appreciate everything you've taught me." "Amara, but I need to build something that's mine." Room fell silent. Finally, Miriam nodded. She understood. Even if she didn't like it. Weeks later, sunlight streamed through the windows of a small studio. The space wasn't luxurious. It wasn't famous. It wasn't finished. But it belonged to Amara. Sketches covered the walls. Fabric samples covered the tables. Possibility filled every corner. She sat alone at her desk studying a completed design. For years, she had created beautiful work without signing it, without claiming it, without believing it mattered. Today was different. Slowly, she picked up a pen. At the bottom of the sketch, she wrote 2 words: Amara Brooks, her name, her work, her future. The phone rang. She smiled when she saw the screen. Lucas asked. "Maybe. That's unfortunate." "Why? Because I'm standing outside with coffee." Amara laughed. "Impossible." That a yes. She looked around the studio, at the sketches, at her signature, at the life she was finally building. Then she smiled. "Come in." And for the first time, she wasn't stepping into someone else's world. She was creating her own.